Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're going to be taking a look at r/ProRevenge, where the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Let's begin. My revenge on my cheating wife as well as the karma that came afterwards. Posted by a deleted Reddit user.
So I am in the army and I was married. I was approaching my first deployment to Iraq. It was very stressful and it had my wife wanting me to find a way to stay and not deploy. Obvious things any wife would try to talk about. Anyways, we have no kids but both want them. So we talk about getting out of debt while I'm gone. She talks to her best friend back home in another state where we are both from. Her friend agrees to let her move in and charge a modest $300 in rent so that we can get out of debt and start a family when I come back. A plan I was actually very pleased with. I deploy, she is there crying her eyes out saying she will miss me and loves me, and we will start a family when we get back. Fast forward 2 months. She starts acting distant, not wanting to talk much on our scheduled calls or text back 1 or 2 word answers. We've been together 6 years and she is never at a loss for words. Anyway, one day she says, I need some space. She asks someone who is 10,000 miles away for space. I asked why. She says she just needs space. She wants to find herself. So I remember back when we lived at home, she had a guy who was always being borderline inappropriate. I'm not a very jealous person and I trust her. So I start seeing said guy on and basically all her pictures she posts with a group. Every time he is in the picture, everyone else changes but never him. So for the first time I'm very jealous and uneasy about everything. So I cloned her phone so I receive every text she receives, as well as every text she sends. I'll never forget the first text I saw after cloning her phone. Hey babe, I'll see you after work, want me to save you any of my leftovers? From her to him. It destroyed me. I lost 35 pounds in a week. I didn't eat or sleep. I stared at the phone watching every conversation. Watching them talk about trying to have a baby. It was literally everything a married person fears. I ask her if she is seeing someone and she says no she isn't. She is taking care of herself and she loves me, blah blah. I haven't said anything about receiving her texts for 2 months. Over this time she finally admits cheating and that he is so much better than me at sex, treating her right, and he does what she wants. During this time she pays our debt off, gets matching I love you tattoos with him, goes to shows with him, buying clothes, etc. with the money I'm making. So this is where revenge starts. I put a freeze on the account for a month. In that time I change every password to every account to things she won't guess, army jargon slang terms. I block her on Facebook and my phone so she has no way to contact me. She lost her car to repo a few months later, got kicked out of her place, had to sell her prized shoes and purses just to stay alive. I then found out she got a job at her old restaurant. So I posted all the text conversations I had with her and the guy talking about having babies that have time stamps on it, as well as post conversations we had with the matching time stamps showing all of our friends what she has done. I then have friends call and complain at her job constantly on both he and her. They work at a restaurant, so I also have friends dine and dash. They both get fired. So she tries to call my command and tell them that I am abandoning her and she can't provide for herself. My commander knows what is going on. He does nothing because he had something similar happen. Then about a month before I came back, she called me from another number to tell me she is pregnant with his kid. Mind you, I'm still gone so we cannot get divorced yet. She moved away with him, 10 hours from me. April 24, 2018. She calls me 5 months pregnant, crying uncontrollably, asking me where she should go. Apparently, they have a giant blow-up fight and she tells him she is leaving. She says she doesn't know where to go and I simply say, sorry, not my problem anymore. Fast forward to January of this year. She calls me from a mutual friend's phone. Her, he hit me. I don't know what to do. Me, maybe, you don't cheat on your husband when he is deployed for some guy who talks a big game. Her, well, I guess you are happy about this. Me, no, but I'm glad I know I'm not the bad guy in this story. And then the next month. Her, he is cheating on me with 2 girls. I'm sorry. I regret everything I did. I fucked it all up. Me, yeah, you did. All in all, this woman destroyed my life. Put me into a deep depression I'm still dealing with. But I do feel a little better having proof that I wasn't the problem. To think if this happened even 10 or 5 years ago, I would have come back to an empty bank account, an empty house, as well as seeing my then wife pregnant with another man's baby. She actually hit me up yesterday to ask for some money to help cover rent. Edit, to answer a few questions. I realized I left out that we got divorced before the kid was born, so I have no financial responsibility to her, haven't now for almost a year. I mainly use T-Mobile's digit service to clone the phone. Google it, I don't feel like typing it. Also no, I wasn't celebrating that she was physically abused. I did tell her to call the cops, but that's all I did. It's not right to abuse someone, but I also have no responsibility to watch out for her well-being.
You know, sometimes it is best to simply let them wreck their own lives. And she did. You did everything correctly, OP. There is nothing more painful to a narcissistic cheater than complete indifference. Well done, my friend. And now for today's second story. My wife betrayed me before marriage and lied about it for 2 years. We're now divorcing. Posted by Reddit user BBooBeep.
My wife, 24, and I, 35, have been together for 4 years and married for a year. When we met, it was instant chemistry and we were talking about marriage within the first week. All I ever wanted for us was what's right and to protect the sanctity of our future marriage and to love her. I am a Bible-believing Christian, and I told her the first time that I stayed at her apartment that I would not have sex with her before marriage. She comes from a broken home with a verbally and emotionally abusive alcoholic stepfather. As a result, she has major insecurities. There are things she shared about her parents that I always had a hard time looking past. At 16, she went to hair school, and from 16 to 19 she said she slept with about 30 different guys after her piece of shit mother put her on birth control and told her she's young and should have fun. I also come from a broken home and have abandonment issues from my father. I've struggled with anger since my childhood and was troubled and rebellious in my youth. I've been described by people that know me as a man's man. I'm masculine and mysterious with an intensity that can make people uncomfortable. This unapproachable way that I carry myself is just a hard outer shell that is nothing more than a defense mechanism to protect my soft interior. In reality, I'm an extremely caring, sensitive, and empathetic guy. I've been cheated on in previous relationships and I've been through a lot of traumas in my life, both physically and mentally. At times I need solitude to process things, and when I'm not getting it, I tend to push everyone away. This was often misunderstood in past relationships, and I wasn't able to communicate effectively because I didn't really have an understanding of what was going on with me. Within a few months of meeting her, lease was up on her overpriced apartment and I let her move into my home to help her financially and to be closer to each other. This was probably a mistake because our chastity didn't last long after. I felt so convinced and was keenly aware of my responsibility to lead and do right by her. I felt like she didn't respect my convictions or herself enough to wait, and I began to resent her and withdraw into that place where I need to self-isolate and process what I'm feeling. Again, this was misunderstood, and one day after a trivial argument in the morning before work when I had to go and couldn't settle it then, she vented to her parents, and they came and packed her stuff up and she let me come home to her moved out with no notice. This triggered my feelings of abandonment and unworthiness of being loved and truly hurt me. It was never the same after this. Some time goes by and we're working it out. She then gets an apartment near my house to be close to me, and we're going steady for about a year. We were engaged and committed to marry until she befriended a younger coworker who was not giving her sound advice.
By the end of this, you are going to be crying like a little bitch.
I became displeased with what I was seeing with her behavior and had doubts about the marriage. One day after we decided to take a break to determine if this marriage is meant to be or if it's just flesh, she was over at my mother's house without my knowing, looking at photo albums and talking. This made me angry, and I reactively told her that I wanted the ring back to get her attention, and it didn't go over well. Of course, she was upset, and of course her dumb best friend was in her ear telling her what an asshole I am. We're still talking and seeing each other daily, working through it. I regretted taking the ring, but it lost a diamond when she was gardening and needed repair. Besides, it seemed to have gotten the effect that I wanted to show her that I was serious. I had planned to give it some time and have it repaired and give it back to her. Less than a week later, I went on a dirt bike ride with some new friends and my bike broke down in a precarious spot deep on a technical mountain trail. It was extremely strenuous and stressful to get the bike back to the trailhead, and when I finally did, I was absolutely spent. I called her hoping she could bring the moto carrier and some straps and reiterated that I needed at least 2 straps. Of course, she's with the dumb friend and they show up together without any straps. I find one strap stashed in her car, and while I'm struggling to load the bike and strap it securely with one strap by myself, they're running around the trailhead chasing each other and giggling like children. I'm disgusted. I got it loaded and I'm unsure if it's secure, but it's less than 2 miles away and I figured I'd take it slow. Right around the corner from my house in a busy intersection, the new to me and very expensive dirt bike falls off the carrier and gets dragged for a bit. I stop and am trying to wrestle the bike up and untangle it while they both just stand there watching me and traffic is going around us. I am completely exhausted at this point and opt to just walk the bike the rest of the way. When I got there, I was so pissed that I just pulled the carrier off her car and went inside. That happened on Saturday and Sunday. We hardly talked. I was still mad about it. The following Monday, I'm at work and I got a text from her that says that we need to talk about the relationship. I react negatively and ask if she's breaking up with me and said that I'll take her stuff to her place when I get off. I was honestly fine with it at the time. 2 days later, I'm distraught and realize that I made a mistake by pushing her away like I had pushed away so many others throughout my life. I could feel that she had disconnected. I go over to her apartment and opened up to her in a way that I never had up to that point. I told her that I didn't want to lose her, that I loved her and that I didn't want to ruin what we have. That my intention was to work on myself and be ready for marriage. That I didn't want to open the relationship and that if she was talking to someone else, I hoped she would tell me.
Wow, like a bitch.
And that's what Frieza said.
She was cold and closed off and let me leave that day without telling me much of anything. I tried to contact her a day later by blowing up her phone because I was spiraling, and she was not answering. When we finally spoke, she made me feel terrible on the phone like I was crazy. I reluctantly gave her space and focused on myself. I started seeking counsel, reading a lot of self-help literature about relationships and hitting the gym. Over the next 2 weeks we talked briefly a few times and saw each other twice. One afternoon, she then asks if she can come over to talk. I can feel that she's returned to me and I'm overjoyed, thinking that this time apart was a good thing and we're going to move forward with our plan to marry. I remember being so happy to see her and holding her on the couch. She says she needs to tell me something and tells me she slept with someone else. I remember feeling that wave of emotion and I could feel my heartbeat on my face. I got up and went into the kitchen and she followed me. I was at the sink when I said, "It's okay, I love you, I forgive you and I'm glad you're back." I remember thinking, what the fuck, where did that come from? I just said it. But I felt conflicted. I truly was glad she was back and I wanted to forgive her.
That's stupid. You're stupid. Stop being stupid.
We sat down and I told her that the only way that we will be able to move on from this is if she tells me the truth. The whole truth. I wanted to know the details and the entire story. The picture she painted was sad. She made it sound like she was taken advantage of, like he got her drunk and they're talking. He makes his move, and she shows hesitancy and said she doesn't know if she wants to do this. She told him she's a Christian and doesn't want sex before marriage, and he then pressured her and she gave in. He took her pants off, hid it from behind with her shirt on, and she left after. I was heartbroken for her. I truly felt like the right thing was to forgive her and move forward based on what she told me and everything that had happened. A year goes by between then and when we decided to marry. Night after night of talking and crying and asking her direct questions about what happened, and she gave direct answers. I just felt like there was more she wasn't telling me, and I'd sit her down and ask her again and again what happened, trying to make sense of it. She maintained her story and would answer me, but pushed me to just move on and drop it. I loved her so much and wanted so badly to be married and have a family that I was willing to look past it. All I needed was the truth. 7 months into our marriage I'm struggling, and I post to Reddit about our situation. The majority of the comments were encouraging separation and saying that she's giving trickle truth and that it's always worse than what the offending partner says. I just didn't want to believe it, and when I shared the thread with her, she was clearly triggered. 2 years after the betrayal and approaching our 1-year anniversary of marriage, I just cannot take it anymore. Everything in my heart and in my spirit and in my gut is telling me that there's more that she's not telling me, and I just have to get to the bottom of it before I commit to having children and starting a family with this woman. I reached out to the mutual friend and got the guy's number. I tell her I'm going to talk to him and ask some questions to corroborate her story of what happened and that this is her last opportunity to come clean. She gaslights me and stalls, clearly upset by the idea. The next day I have a meeting scheduled with him and she tells me that she stayed the night there with him afterwards, and that's what she's been hiding. I could feel the pain of the betrayal all over again. When I spoke with him, it was so much worse than what she made it out to be. She was lying to him too and told him that I, her ex, had cheated on her. He said that she's the one who initiated sex and was going down on him less than 3 days after me opening up to her about how much I loved her and wanted to fix it. That they were going around as a couple. She was sleeping with him over a dozen times without protection, and he said they were spending a lot of time together over the 2 weeks. So many things that she told me were outright lies to cover up the lies. I just cannot cope with the blatant dishonor and disrespect. I feel like I've been manipulated and that she let me marry her under false pretense. She let this go on for way too long, and after all those nights of heart-to-hearts and her lying to my face, I feel like this egregious breach of trust is irreconcilable. I've filed for divorce and we're in the process of separating now. She of course is upset and says that's all she's lied about and that she lied to protect me. I just don't believe her and I'm not in love with her anymore. I realize that she's probably developed this manipulative lying skill set during childhood to control the narrative just to survive emotionally with her abusive alcoholic stepfather, and she projected a lot of that onto me. When she realized how empty and messed up what she was doing was and that I actually loved her, she came back and lied to me because she knew that if she told me the whole truth, there's no way I would have reconciled then. I should have listened to you guys 6 months ago, and I apologize for deleting the account and ghosting all of the commenters. I was delusional and wrong. I just didn't think she was capable of doing something so disrespectful to both herself and me. The thought of her allowing me to marry her knowing what she did and letting it go on this long, to never tell me the truth until I find out the story from him, is just unforgivable. It's worse than what she did in the first place. She's shown me that she's untrustworthy and not someone that I want to be the mother of my children. I welcome your insight and perspective, but please spare me the negative comments regarding our age gap. I was keenly aware of it then, just as I am now, and I know that my intentions were good. Despite how this summary rant of the last 4 years of our relationship may read, there was love there and we did share a lot of great moments together. She showed a lot of potential, and over the last 2 years, she's tried really hard to be a great spouse to me, but the extent of the betrayal and resulting lies just overshadows any promise that was there before. I will never be able to look at her the same. There's just not much that can be built on lies that won't eventually crumble. TLDR, after 3 years of committed relationship and engagement, soon-to-be ex-wife slept with another man during a brief break and has been lying about it for 2 years and let me marry her without the truth being known. Divorcing her after being tortured by it for 2 years and after a year of marriage finding out the truth from the guy.
Well, Mr. Masculine and Mysterious, you're a fucking moron. You are so pathetic, in fact, that it actually hurts my eyes to read your post. This relationship was shitty and toxic from the very beginning. You are confusing love with codependency. OP, go get some therapy and stop dating these hoes with daddy issues. You've got a lot of growing up to do, so focus on that and stop dating for now, you fucking simp lord. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.